All right, let's get right into it. Tonight, November 17th, 2025, we've got a classic Western Conference showdown that really feels like something straight out of a storybook. You've got the struggling underdog, the Dallas Mavericks, traveling to Minneapolis to take on an established contender in the Timberwolves. This one has all the makings of a true David versus Goliath battle.
And I'm not just throwing that comparison around, I mean, just look at this. The numbers do not lie. The Timberwolves are sitting pretty at 8-5, looking every bit the playoff team we expect them to be. And then you have the Mavericks, struggling big time at 4-10. This right here, this single graphic, it sets the entire stage for tonight's conflict.
So to really get this matchup, we have to start with the giant in the story, Minnesota. These guys have built an absolute fortress out west, especially when they're playing on their home court. So what is it that makes this team so incredibly tough to beat?
Well, it all starts with just pure offensive firepower. The Wolves are pouring in over 120 points per game, which puts them in the top 10 for offenses in the entire league. Now think about that from the Mavericks' perspective. Their defense is already having a tough time, giving up over 114 a night. That is a seriously daunting number to see coming at you. And this firepower comes from a fully healthy, really well-balanced arsenal. You've got the explosive, can't stop him scoring from Anthony Edwards, you've got the all-around game of Julius Randle doing a bit of everything, and then you have Rudy Gobert, the anchor, just controlling the paint. And just to keep defenses honest, you've got shooters like Donte DiVincenzo waiting to punish you from deep. It's a multi-pronged attack, you basically have to pick your poison, and there's really no right answer.
And it's not just their offense, right? The other side of the coin is their brutal home court advantage. The Target Center has become a legit fortress. They're not just winning there with a 5-2 record, their defense gets absolutely suffocating. They force over 15 turnovers a game, just feeding off that home crowd energy.
Okay, so now let's flip the script and talk about David, the Dallas Mavericks. This is a team that has been absolutely battered by injuries, just struggling to find an identity, and yet somehow they've shown a surprising amount of fight. And when I say battered, I am not kidding. Just look at this. This isn't just missing a role player or two. We're talking about the franchise cornerstones, the primary playmakers, the defensive anchors, all of them are on the sidelines. Losing this much talent would cripple literally any team in the league, and that's the reality Dallas is facing every single night.
So you're probably thinking, with all that talent out, what hope do they possibly have? Well, they have one thing, one stone in their sling, if you will, and that's rebounding. The Mavericks are an elite rebounding team, grabbing over 48 boards a game. That's good for third in the entire NBA. For a team that can't just rely on its superstars to create easy shots, winning the possession battle on the glass, that's their only real path to staying competitive.
And hey, don't mistake that 4-10 record for a lack of effort. Just last night, they pulled out a super gutsy, hard-fought overtime win against Portland. So even though they are severely outgunned, this team has proven they've got some serious fighting spirit. They are not just going to roll over.
Okay, so we've got the powerhouse and we've got the underdog. But games aren't won on paper, right? Let's break down where this battle will actually be decided, the specific matchups on the court that are going to tip the scales one way or the other.
And wow, just laying out the starting lineup side by side tells a huge part of the story. On one side, you have Minnesota with seasoned veterans and all-stars at pretty much every position. Then you look at the other side and you've got a Mavericks team relying on role players and a rookie, Cooper Flagg, who's being thrown right into the fire. It is a stark contrast in experience and star power. So, the first key matchup is pretty obvious. How in the world does this makeshift Dallas backcourt even begin to slow down a force of nature like Anthony Edwards? I mean, he's a matchup nightmare for any team. If Dallas can't find some way to contain him, they're going to have to send help, and that will just leave Minnesota shooters wide open. It's a potential defensive collapse just waiting to happen. And then the other critical battle. This one's going to happen down low in the paint. We just talked about Dallas's elite rebounding as their one big advantage. But can that strength really hold up against Rudy Gobert, a guy who's a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate? If Gobert neutralizes them on the glass, Dallas loses its only real lifeline. This isn't just a matchup, it's their entire game plan on the line right there. So, we've laid out all the evidence, the stats, the injuries, the key matchups. Where does it all point? Let's walk through the final verdict here.
Look, the case for Minnesota being heavily favored is built on three really solid pillars. First, they're rested. Dallas, they're on the second night of a grueling back-to-back after an overtime game, no less. Second, the talent gap is just massive, with Minnesota stars all healthy and ready to go. And third, like we've said, that home court dominance is a very, very real factor.
And all of that leads us to this definitive prediction. The sources are projecting a comfortable win for the Timberwolves, 118-102. The thinking is they'll control this game pretty much from the start and win by a significant margin, just overwhelming the battered and fatigued Mavericks.
So, yeah, everything on paper points to a routine win for the home team. But this is the NBA, you know? Anything can happen on any given night. So the question we're left with is this: is tonight's game just a predictable outcome? Or are we all just witnessing the quiet calm right before an unforgettable underdog storm? Guess we'll have to watch and find out.